Welcome, welcome to the main stage. Today, we're going to talk about growth hacking at scale. I'm Ben Sofiani, and I'm allowed to host you today. And please help me welcome Chris Long. So, Chris, I heard you had a good night here. We met last night.
We did, yeah.
Stayed at Motel 1, right where I have my office. Not at Motel 1, but at MediaPark.
No, it's great. Enjoying being in Cologne.
Yeah. You sound very like you're from America, not from Europe. So where are you from?
From Toronto, Canada.
But you moved recently to Amsterdam, right?
Yeah, I moved 6 months ago. So it's been an interesting experience. Like it's definitely part of something I've always wanted to do is to have that sort of like understand there's different ways of doing things.
So what's the difference? What did you notice? One thing in particular, maybe?
So the thing that I found the most difficult and surprised me was the grocery store.
Really?
It's such a simple thing, but you grow up with the grocery store a certain way, and you don't really question it. You know where the vegetables are, you know what you can get at the grocery store, you know your brand of laundry detergent, you have all that stuff, you know everything there. But when you walk into a grocery store, and I love going grocery stores while traveling, but it's very different when you live there, and you're like, I need something. It still takes me, I've been there now for 6 months, and just this past weekend I was looking for something. It took me about 20, 30 minutes, just trying to find it, figure out what brand I need. Is this actually what I need? All this stuff. But it's fun. It's because it challenges you in different ways that sort of your core fundamental elements that you don't really get an opportunity to challenge yourself around.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I would love to do the other move. I have two little daughters, and I would like to give them the opportunity to learn English before they go to primary school. And I would love to do that in Canada, most of all countries.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. Toronto is a great city. I still love it.
So you're announced as the growth guy from Booking.com.
Yep.
Yeah, but you used to be the product and growth lead at Shopify too, right?
Yes, I was. So I was at Shopify for about 4 years.
Yep.
And that was actually really my first step into the growth world. Before working at Shopify, I was actually in product management and much more on the technical side of product management, like way back when I was a software developer. But I ended up actually, I tweeted about an A/B test to Shopify, and the CMO at Shopify got back to me and being like, I can't answer your question, but let's grab breakfast.
No way.
And then we grabbed breakfast, and it didn't work out at that point for an opportunity. But a year later, he reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want to join our growth team? I was kind of like, what the hell? I haven't really thought much about growth, but I'm really curious to sort of explore it and mix it up a bit from a lot of the product stuff I've been doing.
Yeah, you had a unique position there because if I understood you right, you were responsible for making users use certain features of the product more often, not like increase the user base, maybe that as an aside, but to actually activate people to get to use certain features. Is that correct?
Yeah, the idea is there's a VP of growth at Facebook. What's his name? I totally blank on his name, but he has a phrase of growth is about putting lighter fuel on the fire. And the sort of idea is like you can build a beautiful fire, and growth is there to help make it bigger. So with what our team was really focused in on was this idea of we build all these amazing products, but how do we get people to use these products? How do we get people to actually get value from them? And that's really the key element that we focused in on was unless there's that value that's there, there's no reason to grow it. There's nothing that we can do. But if there's value there, we want as many people as possible to get that value from it.
And that is a very different and interesting perspective, that you have essentially within one company a product portfolio, but you know that your current user base is not using everything, especially not the new features. Or if you have a product portfolio on the sideline, how do you actually get your users to use them? So let's start with thinking about how you develop like the singular ideas for specific ideas, and then if that idea is successful, we talk about how to scale that up to grow its own team. Okay? So what comes to mind, like if you think about the Shopify case?
Yeah.
what were some of the ideas you were working on that worked and some that did not work?
Ooh, okay. So probably one of the ideas that worked really well, it's still actually out there, is a product called Hatchful. Yeah, it's a logo maker, iOS, Android, and web. And talking about sort of how we came up with the idea around it was taking a look at that funnel that we have of people using Shopify. Shopify traditionally is very high intent. So it's people who are searching for selling t-shirts online. They come across Shopify. And that's great. But you run out of sort of the number of people who are searching for selling t-shirts online or that sort of stuff on top of it. There's only a certain number of people. So you can keep on expanding and sell jewelry online, sell all those other things, and you can keep on doing that. But you can also find ways of going up funnel, of finding people before they're at that point of selling t-shirts online. So in our case, one of the things we looked at was a logo maker. So if you're starting a business, you're thinking about selling something online, before you even maybe have a product or an idea, you might want to build that logo.
Or a name generator.
Or a name generator is another example that we've done as well. So it's sort of the idea of like, how can we work our way up market, build out these products, and these products are simple. They provide value to customers.
But get was it still like in the Shopify brand? Was it on the Shopify domain, or was it really separate? Hashful, I mean.
So when we originally launched, it was actually under a separate brand. Entirely separate website. Even the Play Store and the iOS profile was very different. Recently, though, actually about 6 months ago, after my time there, they brought it under the Shopify brand.
So why did you start with it off-brand?
It's a big part about the freedom and flexibility you get. So when it's a separate brand, it allows you a lot of flexibility into actually what you can do. When you're under the Shopify brand, you have, and there's always that tug of war between brand and growth. Because growth sometimes wants to take like risky stuff that drives the metrics, but might not be the best brand play. And there's always that tension. It's a good tension to have. But when you're launching a new product, a lot of cases, you don't want that extra baggage, especially if you're going after a brand new market, which we were in that case, something that Shopify hadn't done before. So by doing a separate allowed us to really sort of focus in on, rather than following like design guidelines or copy guidelines or PR stuff and that sort of elements, we could actually build it all ourselves and solve the problem we're facing rather than worrying about all this baggage that would drag us down.
I really get that. I see it so often when, especially working with bigger companies, that it's so much easier for them if we try, validate new ideas off-brand, an own landing page, own domain, and we don't have to follow all the rules. Then you can simply improve and increase your speed so much faster. And then if it works out, you can bring it back to the fold. So how did you immediately build the whole logo generator thing, or did you have a way to validate it before?
So there's a simple tool that we built beforehand, just a web page, and all it did was you choose an icon and enter in some text, and that was a simple logo maker that was built. And that one got a significant amount of traffic coming from SEO and all these other places, so we want to explore, okay, if we built it as an Android app or an iOS app, what does that exactly, like, will that drive different type of traffic? How exactly will that work? And it was interesting, it was a different challenge set too. It was sort of an opportunity for us to explore this idea of like, how do we do Play Store optimizations or iOS Store optimizations? How do we do advertising in these places? Things that we hadn't traditionally had a lot of experience and give us opportunity to play around with it too. So
were you an independent team for that, or was it a subtask of a given team?
It was an independent team that we built around it specifically.
Cool. How big was it, and what type of people were in that team?
So we had designer, 2 developers or 3 developers, 1 iOS and 2 Android. And no backend actually, so it was just entirely mobile development, so designer. And then we also had someone who was a product manager, but a very different from a normal traditional product manager. We try to build them up much more as a product lead or a product growth lead. So the idea was they're coming more from a growth background, and they're thinking more about this product, not from just the experience we're delivering, but how can we actually get people to use this product, and then connect this product actually to Shopify so it still continues to provide value all the way through.
Do you remember the initial traffic channels beside SEO?
It was entirely pretty much SEO.
But it takes some time for it to grow. So how long did it take from, we have this idea for Hashful, registering a domain, doing the web stuff, and then seeing initial traction? Because if you wait for SEO, it's like, 3 months in, grass is still growing.
So originally, the logo maker that we built that was relying on SEO was actually on the Shopify website. And one of the things that Shopify did incredibly well, it's actually one of its core strengths, was SEO.
Yeah.
So it could be you actually launch a product on Shopify and it gets crawled pretty much instantly. And just through all the optimizations that the SEO team has done, it would actually show up really quickly. And that was a very heavy keyword. A lot of people are searching for it. And probably right now, if you even still go and search for logo maker, business name generator, Shopify will be the #1 result. And just shows the strength of that SEO team. Like they were just the best at it.
Okay, I would have never thought that this could be an initial traction channel. I usually drive traffic
Yeah,
to
it's
like
not
Facebook
normal.
ads and see what happens, and feed it, and then measure traction. So when was the point that you said, yes, this is something worthwhile? We don't want to scrape it. What were your KPIs where you like said, yes, that's it. That's something we want to scale?
So in this case, it was a lot of looking at how many people are coming to the site, how many are interacting with it, how many are actually getting value from it, getting that logo designed. And in this case, too, it's also important for us to figure out how many people are actually converting to be either Shopify customers or signing up for our newsletter.
Do you remember like rough numbers?
No, I don't actually off the top of my head.
But are we talking like 10,000 people did it and then it was fine, or?
No, it was significantly higher than that. There's a lot of people out there searching for logos.
Yep.
It was definitely going after a quantity game. So by getting as many people as possible create the logos, a small portion of those would turn into Shopify customers. A small portion would sign up for our email newsletter. And that's an important element because something like Shopify, it's actually, timing is really important. Like a product like Shopify, even a lot of other products that were probably out there, it's your biggest competitor isn't the other people out there who are doing the same thing as you. It's actually Netflix. It's the people, like when you get home from work, you sit down, and you're like, okay, do I work on my online store or do I put up House of Cards?
Rough choice.
Personally talking, I just binged on House of Cards, so I made that choice this weekend. But yeah, so that's sort of the, you want to figure out, okay, if we get someone in on Logo Maker, it's not so much that they immediately sign up for Shopify, but it's, we get their email and we get them to hopefully come back at some point later on to sign up for Shopify.
So you had like an email retention funnel to convert people from A to B.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something you really have to think about. If you do something off-brand, there has to be a way to get back to that brand. Were there any issues then with the brand guidelines then that you had to send emails in such and such way? Or how was it?
Yeah, so that was still something that we're working on. So at that point, we still hadn't fully connected the dots between Hatchful and Shopify.
Yeah.
That was something that was kind of, sort of say it's like a future you problem. Like we sort of validated the idea with the web version of it that was on the Shopify site, and now we decided to build an entirely separate product. And when we built that entirely separate product, we're like, let's just worry first about getting people to use that product. Okay. Connecting the dots from the product to Shopify is something we can do after that point. It's because we know people coming in to design a logo, at some point they should be needing Shopify or should be using Shopify. So we can connect those dots after that point and build that funnel out.
Did the team grow?
Yeah, so when I, let's see, so it was about, the 5 people when I was there, and I think when I left it was growing upwards closer to 8 or 10 people.
Okay.
So it was quite successful at that initial point. Okay,
cool. And then you left, and now 6 months ago they integrated, so you had like full circle view of that. That's nice. Do you remember anything that you started, it went kind of well, but you had to scrape it?
Ooh.
This was an idea where you convinced, like, that's the shit.
So there was one that I was really convinced it would work. I was really disappointed it didn't work.
Tell me about it.
So coming up, it's next week, I think, is actually, it's a holiday in the US, Thanksgiving. Or for the consumers of us, it's Black Friday, Cyber Monday. This is the biggest shopping day of the entire year. So you see the charts, it's like on every single website just skyrockets up. With everyone buying online. It's, I think, even come here to Europe in a lot of cases. So what we decided to do is we're like, okay, we have all these small merchants on Shopify. We have all these people that we want to be successful. And Shopify, like the key to keeping people on Shopify and even like the onboarding moment and everything else is around getting sales. So if you're not getting sales, you're not going to use Shopify. Okay. So we're like, okay, Black Friday, Cyber Monday is coming up. What can we do to drive sales for our customers? So what we did actually was we took our budget for those few days over Black Friday, Cyber Monday, our marketing budget. We built a website. We reached out to all these merchants. We're like, hey, we're going to promote your deals, your products. Just let us know what you want to promote, what your Black Friday, Cyber Monday promotion is. Built this whole website presenting the deals, and then we spent our budget, which was a fair amount of money for those few days, just to drive people to this website, to this like marketplace of deals. So I was super excited about it because I'm like, we're taking our budget that we would normally use to drive customers to Shopify. Instead, we're going to drive customers to our merchants. Didn't work. It was actually probably, even just the click-through, the ads. It's very different doing ads for consumers than it is for people, entrepreneurs, people starting a business. So we had that first problem of like, okay, we're not getting people to click on the ads. And they come to the website, and we also realized that people aren't actually going to the merchant sites. And we had the next problem of like, when people go to the merchant sites, people aren't actually buying the products. So I was definitely disappointing. Probably would have been like only like a few hundred sales that we actually drove for our merchants. Which was really disappointing. This was about 3 years ago, and I remember, I spent quite a while organizing it, getting all set up, and just did not work out as planned.
Okay, and I can imagine that your barrier for success, if you have a product like Shopify or Booking.com, it must be so high. Like, I'm a fish in this small pond, and for me it's sometimes like somebody sells something 10 times a day. I get them to sell it 100 times a day. They feel like kings. They feel like, oh my God, I can stop working for the man. I'm free now. But if you have the challenge, shit, we got like I don't know how many people are registered for Shopify as shop people, but it must be like probably hundreds of thousands or millions, right?
Yeah, I think for Shopify merchants, the last number I saw, and this was 2 quarters ago, it was about 600,000.
600,000 people. So even changing it like by 1%, you've got to come up with 6,000 people worldwide who want to start a new online shop. 1% change. So I don't know, do you need to shift your mindset? Do you have to be super selective about the idea? Tell me how you think about growth hacking at scale if you need to have such a big improvement? Or is it, I don't know, is it the small improvements you want to do?
It's kind of a combination of the two. Like the biggest thing with Shopify that you sort of learn, it's a few different things, but one is like the importance of being your customer. So I don't know, I've had probably a half dozen different Shopify stores.
You did?
None of them have been wildly successful. Only about one is still in operation right now, but I keep on meaning to do some more.
Can you share what you sold?
So a lot of T-shirts actually.
Okay. Like what kind of T-shirts? Like your male 42 and like dogs? That was pretty popular in Facebook ads times because you could target people who are 42, are male and like dogs, and they sold like pancakes.
Running, actually.
Running.
Yeah, so I'm not a runner. I can run about 5 kilometers, maybe 10 kilometers on a good day if I'm forced.
Meet with that guy in the front to the right. He's the craziest runner I know, seriously.
Yeah, it's pretty, so they're very passionate about it, and my partner...
running T-shirts.
Running T-shirts.
Okay.
But the idea sort of there of like selling these running T-shirts or selling all the other stuff is it at least helps put you in the shoes of your customer. Helps you understand it, but it doesn't even get you all the way there. But the biggest thing you sort of understand is like all the different problems that people face in actually making sales on your product on Shopify, and what exactly are the various things you can do to help them across the board. And that's where it's like some small stuff really helps them, but it's also some of the big things that will really help them make it happen as well.
So I always imagine it a bit like people on this customer journey, they want to go from A to B, and there are all those hurdles in between, like running a tough mudder. And what I try for growth is like building solutions, even like you did with the logo. That is one of the hurdles you need to take. You want to have a shop, you need a name, you need a logo, you need a topic, you need a niche that is discoverable. So tell me more about ideas that work, that helped users to come like from A to B in the customer journey that you can remember.
So probably like one of the ones that Shopify always viewed itself as, it's interesting, it's an online store. That's its primary product, that's what it delivers, but that's not its customer. Its customer aren't people who want to sell online. Its customers are people who are entrepreneurs. People out there who want side business, full-time business, leave their day job, whatever it is, weekend warriors, etc. So if you have that as your idea, you have people coming to Shopify, and you want those people to come to Shopify who want to be an entrepreneur, but don't necessarily have something to sell.
Okay.
So
it's
sort of difficult. Like, how do you find something to sell? Like, maybe, I don't know, you like knitting, but it takes days for you to knit your sweater, and you can't really do that many sweaters of knitting.
But how did you solve it for the customers?
So that's where it's a few different things. Like, you sort of play around with content marketing. So you help people sort of figure out what they should be selling. So if you even look, like, there's whole guides on Shopify, whole videos, whole blog posts all about finding products to sell, how exactly to go about it. Everything from the quantitative side of things of like looking on Amazon for the top sellers to looking at your life and figure out what your passion is. But one of the other things that we sort of did too was this idea of there's a whole movement around drop shipping happening out there.
Yes, a lot.
So it's a company that Shopify actually acquired, was called Aberlo. They actually have an office in Berlin, and that connects you with drop shippers.
And they could get the whole Amazon FBA crowd to, that's cool.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, we are in the last 10 minutes. If you have any questions coming up, Thomas is over there. Just give him like a hand. He comes over and takes your question. We will have dedicated 5 minutes in 5 minutes. But if you have something on your lips that needs to be said right now, show Thomas a hand. Okay? Cool. Very nice. So, anybody, any takers right now?
Yes, we have one here.
All right.
Hello, sir. What is your name, your role, and your question, please?
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Rüdiger. I'm coming from Mika Timing, and I'm a product manager here. The question is, as far as I understood, it's necessary probably to convince people to use a new feature, for instance, which is implemented into the system. Do you have any tips how to convince users to use a feature they do not know really well by now?
Okay, any tips on how to convince people to use a new feature?
So it's partially dependent on what is the feature out there. Sort of a few general things to think about. One is the idea of, so way back when I was a software developer, went to school for computer science, and one of the principles that's hammered home, and you probably get this fairly often, is the idea of don't repeat yourself. It's called the DRY principle. When it comes to growth and product growth and getting people to use your product, that's the worst thing you can possibly do.
You have to repeat yourself.
You have to repeat yourself. I call it the cry principle. You have to constantly repeat yourself. And not only that, you have to change how exactly you talk about it yourself too. So you need to think about all the various communication means you have available, and you need to look at each one of those and potentially change some of the messaging around depending on what exactly is out there. So let's say a lot of companies will just write a blog post. They'll be like, hey, we got a blog post. That's it. We're done. New feature launched. Step away. That's not how you do it. You need to think about, okay, we got the blog post. How do we introduce people who are already using our product via email? How do we introduce new people to this product through the onboarding process? How do we maybe leverage social media, push notifications, all these other channels that we have? And you need to look at all those different channels you have and figure out how do you leverage them to actually get people to use that product. And even think about within the product itself, what is the right way of interrupting someone's flow to introduce them to the product? So if it's, say for example, shipping. So Shopify has a shipping option. If you want people to use that shipping option, you need to think about where is the right time for us to actually introduce them to the product. In some cases, it might be when they're actually looking at printing that label and shipping that order. Or it could be even before that point, you want to get the person, maybe not the person who does the shipping, but you want to get the store owner on board with your product, and that might be another channel that you're leveraging.
But from the options you usually have available, what is the most effective one that has the least, the least cost? Not in the sense of like money, but pushing out an email is, you could send out something else. There's a big opportunity cost to do that. Yeah. So from the given things you have available, what are the two most effective ways to push new features in an online product like Shopify or Booking?
So in that case, like email is still like, you have to sort of prioritize it amongst everything else you have. And in that case, you're absolutely right. Like when you said that there's an opportunity cost of something that you might not be emailing to that person. And the way a lot of people try to solve that is something like a newsletter where they combine multiple messages. That's the wrong thing to do because you're sending out conflicting messages to people. You want to focus on just one core thing. The best thing is really look at the flows of your product and where is the right time for people to introduce it. And this is talking more to existing customers that you currently have. If it's people outside of your product who you want to get them to use it, then in that case, you're also looking at all the existing touch points you have and figuring out the right opportunity. So let's say that finding a product. So you want to introduce people to the idea of finding a product that you can drop ship. In that case, what you're looking for is potentially maybe the blog posts that people are touching. And you just put it as part of the flow. As they're reading the content, it just feels like a natural part of that flow that it's in there. And that was a really effective means of driving that. So similar to talking about Hatchful, the logo maker, you'll find it throughout this entire site. There will be these mentions of Hatchful that will capture people when they show some intent or interest in that.
Does that answer your question a little bit? Cool.
No
Anybody else who would like to take a question? Yes, over there.
We have one there. Maybe just drop one sentence what you think about the word growth hacking.
I like the term growth hacking. This is going to be a little bit longer than a sentence, so sorry about it, but I'll try to be quick. I like the term growth hacking because the original idea of hacking and hacker is finding shortcuts to something and finding like a really awesome solution, a really simple solution to something. It's gotten a lot of negative connotations recently, but I think the core idea is still there. And as long as you have that value and you're still interested in getting more people to experience that value, that's a good thing. The bad stuff is when you start to focus in on individual metrics and you view it as a silo, and it might just be, I just care about getting installs. But I don't actually care if people continue using the app after I get that installs. That's where it gets bad.
It's just short term.
Exactly.
I like the switch, hacking growth.
Yeah, that's actually...
And Sean Ellis, who coined the term, actually named his book that way. He didn't call it growth hacking, he called it hacking growth, and I really like that distinction.
Yeah.
To your question.
Yeah, please stand up so I don't have to reach that far. What is your name, your role, and your question, please?
I'm David. I'm a product owner. And my question is, you talked a lot about Shopify now. I would be interested about your experience at Booking.com, how you grew the product there, because I mean the product is already huge, and I think most of us probably use Booking.com, unless you're going to a Motel 1. So yeah, can you give us an example of what you did at Booking.com to grow a product?
So Booking.com, it's still relatively new for me, and it's a massive organization. It's actually been probably one of the more painful elements for me is I came from Shopify when I joined was 400 people, and that was the biggest company I ever worked for. And when I left, it was about 3,000. And then I went to Booking, which is 20,000 people. There, I'm really focused on sort of a similar idea, actually a little bit more on the tactical side, but how do we build products that will keep people coming back to Booking, engaging with Booking.com? How do we build more value for travelers that are out there? It's still a lot of stuff that's very early days, and I can't talk about it up here on stage, but definitely, if you want to grab me afterwards, can maybe say a few things just off the stage.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much for your question. We have time to take one last question at least. Any takers? I have so many questions for you. I could talk to you for hours probably.
There's one question actually.
I will take them over.
Hello. What is your name, your role, and your question?
Hello.
You're holding for me. Cool. Hello, my name is Arthur. I'm from China. And the first thing I came here is like all the digital media I've seen, they are not really promoting a community feature. And back in China, like 2 days ago, we just had our like the last single day, and it's sort of like a Chinese like a cyber holiday thing. Yep. And they sold they basically sold 3 billion worth of merchandise in a single day. And so like they're really promoting this on a community base. So like Taobao has their own Instagram. People can just go shop and show the things they bought like in their own community. How do you think, like, is that possible to do like the same kind of thing here in Germany or like Europe or America in that sense, like.
So more like that social side of selling.
Yeah, right. Like they are a digital selling, like they're like a digital marketing place, but they also have their own community feature in it, and that sort of drives the growth and it's like loop people in there, not like sort of attracting people from Instagram or Facebook.
So let me think about this. So yeah, so the element of like the social selling or even for the individual selling is not exactly, social selling is a big area that we're sort of interested in or was interested in. Shopify still continues to be interesting. I guess sort of not exactly sure what your question is there entirely.
So in China, the shopping experience is much more social. You always expect there like a community manager to be talking and chatting with you while you are shopping. It's very different from here, and I'm very curious on how it's relatable. Please try it, yeah, and share the results at the next Digitale Leute Summit. Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So guys, we don't want to keep you hostage any longer because lunch is waiting for you. Thank you very much, Chris,
no problem.
and see you next time, man.
Big round of applause. Thank you very much, you two.